So what happened with trying to escape? How did that look? Because I know that can be kind of a scary situation for a lot of people when they try to leave their abuser.
Well, I want to touch back really quick
Yes.
on that comment that was the straw. I really saw that that's how he thought.
Mm-hmm.
Right then, a light bulb went off, and it made me realize this is how this man thinks. I could see him doing this. He has done this. Wow. So, for any ladies or anyone that's kind of experienced that, that's a light bulb, and it doesn't have to be hit. It was a very, very eye opening experience. As far as escaping, like I said, I had left once a year. I mean, at the least, the time before the last final time that I left, I had just left and said, I don't even need a divorce. It's just a piece of paper. I just want out of this relationship. And of course, I ended up going back. I had filed altogether 3 times, filed for divorce 3 times. The last time I did, I got through it, but I had to go to great lengths. Nobody knew. My kids did not know. I had to hire a special processor right off the bat. I knew that he was going to avoid being served. I had to plan it. I had keys to my vehicle hidden in my son's room. I was in touch with a special processor on the day that he was going to ride, down to like the minute that he was going to park in front of my house. We had gone to a softball game that day, and we were arguing, and I don't even know why. Oh, he was being hard on our daughter. She was being hard on herself for not catching a ball or not pitching good enough in her eyes. He told her to stop whining and to get back out there on the field. She needed to be over there with her team. And he got irritated and mad, and he ended up taking off in my vehicle and leaving me and 2 of my children at the ballpark. And all I kept telling myself is just stay calm, just stay calm. We get home and he'll be served. And he was.
Wow.
He was completely taken off guard, but I had no choice. And he still didn't make it easy.
Was he there when you got home?
He finally came back to the ballpark and picked us up. And we got home. And within like 60 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, the special processor pulled up in front of my house and walked up to the door. And I refused to go to the front door. I already knew. I was in the laundry room. So he had no choice but to answer the door. And he did. And he said, "You've been served." And he opened it. I did share with my son, "You need to go get the keys. This is where they are. I need you to be just in case." I knew he was going to take my purse, my wallet, whatever he could get his hands on, even though I still hoped and prayed that he wouldn't. He would just be like, okay. But yeah, he looked at me and said, "Are you effing serious?" And I tried to talk to him rationally, and I told him, "I'm just not happy. Let's just go our separate ways. Allow me to stay in the house until our daughter graduated, and then we sell it and split the equity to keep the kids in the school." And he absolutely would not do it. He proceeded to take 3 of my tires off my car. So the police had to be called. And of course, being married, they can't force one or the other to go. And he flat out told the police, "I'm not leaving. This is my house." And the officer looked at him and said, "You know how ridiculous that makes you look? She's standing here with 3 kids, and it'd be so much easier for you to leave at this point." And he said, "No." And so the officer made him put my tires back on my car. I begged the officer, please make sure he tightened the lug nuts.
Right. I was going to say, that's going to be a little dicey. I don't trust.
Right.
I don't trust.
The entire time, ranting, raving, cussing me. My kids are packing their bag and getting their school stuff together. And I left. It was the beginning of this very scary end.
What had you endured up to that point in the 12 years of being with him? Every year, like what kind of abuse were you experiencing day in and day out? What was the lifestyle like? What was the tension like?
Well, we never knew what kind of mood he was going to be in. If somebody at work or he got irritated at work, how he was going to come home. If the kids had gotten in any type of trouble or didn't do their chores or something like that, I always felt like I had to be harder on them so that he didn't punish them. That's one thing that I regret these days that I continue to work on and forgive myself. I talk to my kids about that. They do know why. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I had to get to them before he did. And when it was really good, it was really good. For many, many, many years, probably 95% of them, almost, I was dead inside.
Yeah.
I just was going through the motions. I went to work. I came home. I just wanted to watch TV. I did not want him to touch me. He made my skin crawl. He constantly was cheating on me, probably every 3 to 6 months. I would find something on social media or something in his phone Something just didn't feel right to me. I actually had someone call me one time that knew my older children's other parent and let me know that he was my abuser, or my spouse at the time was contacting them. As
Mm,
I always confronted him, and I look back now and I'm just like, I didn't know what gaslighting was. And I just couldn't fathom, how are you telling me this is not you when it's your picture? And I'm like, how did like, and it wasn't that I believed it. I just couldn't wrap my head around the fact that he was really trying to sell that lie.
right.
And so then I'm forgetting about the actual, he's cheating. I'm trying to figure out how he's trying to sell this lie to me that I know is not true. And then then it got turned around on me that I didn't greet him when he came home from work with a hug and a kiss. Well, hi, honey, you're home. It was my
It's your fault.
I should give him more attention. I have 3 kids and a full-time job. And I didn't need to explain myself. I knew there was something wrong. I was extremely, extremely unhappy. I never smiled, ever.
So it sounds like in your relationship, there's a lot of criticism. There's
Yeah.
a lot of unspoken moving goalpost of expectations that you just felt like, I'm just, okay, well, I met this. And now she's like, okay, but you didn't do this.
Yeah.
Now I've met that. Okay, but you didn't do this. So don't be proud of yourself yet. And you're like, oh my God, just tell me what it is. So you can meet it. Sounds like there's a lot of that.
Yeah. No, she told me I half-ass everything. So
Oh,
I'd also be like, well, I'm halfway done. So that kind of, like you're going to half-ass this? Well, can I finish before we make that? So definitely yes.
okay. Absolutely. And that every day takes a huge toll, a
Yeah.
huge toll. What else happened that you would consider abusive after knowing what you've known since starting everything in March, with all of the knowledge you've gained and the education that is just being thrown your way for you to try to absorb this behavior, being of not just a one-off situation, that people do this and this is how they live their lives. What are some other red flags and toxic traits that happen in that relationship?
I was staying home. So financials came, she would go and spend her day off, retail therapy, just a lot. And then I spent $27 because my screen protector literally tore and I need a new one. And so, then it's, well, what's this $27? And it's like, it was, I had a part-time job for a little bit. So with my first paycheck, I bought a game that me and my friend had been wanting to play together. It was, you just splurge on yourself because you got paid. And that one was jokingly, but I just didn't feel comfortable being able to just spend money just for me because it was a thing I wanted.
And it's easy to have that resentment. Those comments, and I don't want you to censor yourself. There's no judgment for if that's happened enough times where I'm just going to throw out random numbers. Let's say that she spends $500, no questions asked on your part. And then it just happens. But then you spend the 27 and now you're getting drilled, or a $60 game and now you're getting drilled for it. You start getting to a point where you're just condescending back. And that's the reactive abuse, where it's like, we are either going to sit here and just take it, or we're going to start standing up for ourselves. But when we start standing up for ourselves, they don't like that. Then they're like, oh, now you get to, did you hear the way you talked to me? And you're like, hold on a second. Now we're back at this whole, like, who did this really happen to kind of a situation?
Yeah.
Who's the real victim here? Who's the perpetrator? And so I think that you've done a lot.
I remember, one time I said it because something went wrong. I'll admit, like, a lot of times my plans go awry. Something happened and, she was disappointed and upset. And I said, well, I do fuck everything up. And she said, well, don't do that. I was just like, oh, I didn't say it, but, I'm thinking, like, don't remind you of things you've said.
Right.
My ex used to do that. I don't need my words thrown back at me or something. Just acknowledging the fact that that was a thing that she said was bad.
That's really tied to shame. I don't want to hear you now be, this is her, like if I were her.
Yeah.
She'd probably be thinking, I don't want to hear you become a product of what I've basically molded you to be. Now that I've brought you down to that point, and now that I have you thinking of yourself this way, that I've done my best to convince you that you are this way, you don't get the right to say it.
Yeah.
Right? You don't get to punish yourself. That's my job. I'm going to say those things. And that is also another form of control. One of my exes, very similarly, as a child would do that, right? The mom's like, I don't have to put him in timeout. He puts himself in timeout. And I'm like, And then he starts saying horrible things to himself and all these things. I'm like, well, where did he hear those things? No child just thinks of those things randomly. So when I think of her saying that, like when she would say those things to you, that fucked something up, it's just a total projection.